we're kind of saying strengthening, but some of it is exactly what you're talking about, which is coordination.
Yeah.
Your muscles just aren't coordinated like they used to be. So doing some, and I always,
it's like, if you don't do a thing, you get bad at the thing.
and I always find it funny the first couple of visits of treating someone with proprioception and coordination issues, because we're really taking them through like these just really goofy types of activities that just make them very uncomfortable. And you can just look at they give you the look in the eye like, what the heck are you doing to me? Why is this just some kind of sick joke? And then eventually they start to actually master the movements, and then there's carryover into their everyday activity. And I always joke around with like coordination and strengthening and proprioception stuff. It's basically like trying to give you extraordinary like situations to put your body in, so that all of a sudden when you're doing the normal stuff, just walking around the house and even out in the grass on uneven surfaces, all of a sudden that stuff is really easy because you've just been taken through these really weird scenarios.
That's exactly how I describe it. I would describe it
so
like
you overtrain. Essentially.
I basically describe it like doing doubles in football. Like you over prepare, that way when it comes game time, you're way prepared.
Yeah, and you won't get fatigued, and you won't. Yeah, exactly. So I mean, those are really the 3/4 systems. Typically, expectations are that people will improve. We have a couple of functional scales that we use, like a Berg balance scale and a Tonetti scale, and those show us kind of where people are in terms of moderate to mild to severe fall risks. And usually we, depending on what's going on and the circumstances, usually there can be some dramatic improvement to at least going from a to a moderate to mild. So you're improving, at least one grade. But a lot of times we can make a big impact over a treatment period of 4 to 6 weeks.
Balance comes pretty quickly once you start getting the hang of it, provided there's not a vestibular system. That's
or some other kind of odd neurological dysfunction or central nervous system dysfunction, which does occur. There are those cases out there, but the majority of balance things or balance problems aren't necessarily that severe. So if you have questions regarding, so what would be like your first tip if, hey, I want to try to treat myself, but I'm not really ready to make that commitment to go to therapy? What would be something that you would recommend right away for?
I mean, obviously, the wider your feet are, the more balanced you are, right? They think about it like a pyramid, right? If your feet are wide, then you're going to be more stable. Just a simple test of just standing with your feet close together. If that's fairly easy, you could just, that's pretty easy. Then you could just, you could just take a step forward, stop, freeze there, and just see if you can hold that. Take another step, stop, freeze there. You could act like you're going to walk on a line, but just don't walk on the line. You just freeze with your feet in front.
So just heel toe position.
And then just attempt on standing on one leg. If
all those things you can do like statically for like 30 seconds, 45 seconds.
It's not a complicated. Balance is, everybody kind of like, I got to do this fancy. I have to stand one legged on a Swiss ball while balancing a donut on my forehead or something.
Minus the donut, I've actually seen. Have you seen any of those hilarious physical therapy videos where they'll have people like in the clinic standing?
I've seen.
Balls?
Yeah, I've seen people doing squats, like weighted squats on standing on a Swiss ball.
Oh my god!
Like, first of all, how did you get to the point where you could stand on a Swiss ball?
Not me.
No. I've tried it.
Yeah,
it did not end well.
And I was a fairly decent athlete as a kid. I even as a solid athlete, I wouldn't have been able to do that. Not a chance. So, I would say the other thing that besides some of those exercises that Will just mentioned, the other thing, a huge muscle that is really important is the gluteus medius.
We talked about that in the previous episode with the hip.
Yeah, so check out our hip replacement episode if you've also got a hip replacement, which I guess could correlate. But essentially the glute med is the muscle that allows us to stand on that single leg. And it'll also allow us to, a lot of times when we tend to have balance issues, we'll start to widen our stance, and we'll almost be doing this kind of lateral shifting lumbering motion versus kind of a straight
I always
forward.
kind of call it like
it's almost like a
John Wayne kind of walk, like a cowboy walk.
Yeah, and so that a lot of times is an indication that one, you just don't have the confidence, and two, you also have glute med weakness. So a lot of times that base of support will start to narrow, and you'll start to be able to walk without that lumbering lateral shifting once that glute med gets stronger. So strengthening that gluteus medius is going to be just standing at the kitchen counter and kicking out to the side, trying to keep your toe pointed straight ahead.
Yeah.
And that'll help us try to strengthen that. So that's almost always there's a weakness in that when we have a balance issue. And that's one of the first things that I'll do. And we'll also do a sideline one too. We won't go into the explanation.
Yeah, we're not gonna
because that can be a little challenging. But you could always Google search sideline.
We have a YouTube channel that we theoretically should start posting. You should start posting.
Dang it!
Videos of.
We'll get on that.
Yeah, but we can start adding links and stuff like that. We haven't gotten to that point yet.
Yeah, maybe after we get more than 10 listeners.
12 is the limit then? That's the breaking point.
That's a cutoff where we actually put in more work into this?
I mean, what's more work? I guess that would be a lot more work.
There was a lot of prep time in this episode. A lot of prep time.
Yeah, you drove over here. I brought up all the stuff on the computer. I
wrote down the 4 systems, and then we started talking.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, that's pretty much how it goes when we discuss a patient behind, in the office when we're trying to figure out what we want to do with patients.
Yeah.
So, yeah, about right.
I'll see a patient for the first time, like, what's wrong with this person? I'm like, the balance. Okay. Got it.
Or I'll say, read the note, which may or may not have valuable information.
Yeah, that seems like more work.
So, yeah.
The balance is one of those things I feel like that it provided there aren't deficits in vestibular or even proprioception, which I would even extend to like nerve damage from like in your feet from like
neuropathy
for like from your diabetes and stuff.
Yeah, so neuropathy is
what's the book I would say diabetes.
Yeah, so neuropathy is basically there's idiopathic neuropathy, which is where it's a disease of the nerves, and essentially, and they usually happen in the peripherals as far away from the body as possible, which would be like your ankles and your feet. And basically, you start to get burning sensations or lack of sensation, numbness, tingling, those types of things that all interfere with how your brain perceives, your foot and how it's laying on the ground.
It's sort of like the same what we were just talking about with having a surgery where proprioception, like it's overridden.
Yeah, and so if you do have like an idiopathic neuropathy, balance is more challenging. Diabetic neuropathy, same thing. That's just the disease of the nerves based upon your diabetes.
Yeah.
So, in other words, they actually know why the nerves.
The end result is
the same.
It doesn't matter why it's happening.
So, unless you have something underlying like that, most balance problems can be fixed fairly quickly and rectified.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. Do you have anything else to say?
No, balance is pretty straightforward, I feel.
No, yeah, and
people, I feel like I think it's like some sort of like, again, like I said, you have to do these really complicated moves, but it's really not.
No, and I mean, getting back to kind of the purpose of this whole channel is, a lot of the stuff you could do on your own.
Yeah.
You just need a little bit of direction, which hopefully we gave you a little background on it, and now you can, some of the exercises Will talked about, you can start to implement some of those. Just make sure you're doing it in a safe manner. So, do it in a door frame in front of the kitchen.
Something where if you do lose balance, you can grab onto something.
Yeah, and if I've got a questionable patient that I am trying to get more work in at home, a lot of times I'll have them do it at the sink and then put a chair behind them. So if they do lose their balance, they're moving back into the chair.
And they can fall and hit their head on the chair.
Head?
Yeah. Oh. That's why the chair's there, right?
Yeah, to break the impact of the head.
Yeah, right?
Okay. Yep.
Now you have a head injury.
So just make it a solid metal chair to just make it as...
Bonk! Why is there blood everywhere?
This wasn't prescribed.
The ambulance comes. What are you doing? I was working on my balance.
My therapy. Get a letter from your attorney after that.
I mean, from their attorney, not yours.
That's right. Yeah. Then I'd have to get an attorney.
Yes.
Yeah. So, anything else?
No. If anybody has any questions, we have a Facebook page. You can find it at DIY Therapy. We also have an email of DIYtherapy206 at Gmail. I'm never gonna get that right.
I hate you. I hate
Get in line. The line is a long one. There's a lot of people that hate me. You've been watching anything or anything new? You've been busy. You've just been busy with the house, I know.
No, yeah, I've plugged along a little bit with that Jack Ryan series on Amazon Prime, but haven't really got into it too much. But we've been busy trying to get our house ready for selling, and so not a lot. How about you?
No, we're making more headway into the Jack Ryan, and we're watching more of Great British Baking Show.
You know what? That was I will say this: we just finished The Good Place, the second season, which again I love. Highly recommend.
What did you think?
I'm a little,
because the third season should be coming out soon.
I think it's actually hits
October,
like live TV. Yeah. I liked it. One of the reasons why I actually like this show is because there's a continuous story. It's not just a comedy that is like just a one-off episode. Like there's like a point of what's going on, and there's an overarching theme.
There is a point in the season 2 where they could have literally just stretched it out, but they just forced themselves into dealing with it in one episode.
Yeah.
Something that would have been like a season-long thing.
Yeah.
They said, no, this is one episode, and then they dealt with it, and then they...
Yeah, and that's, I think, another reason why I kind of like the show is because it moves along, like things that on other shows I think would be drawn out, especially comedies. There's only 12 episodes per season, so it's not like the standard 24 episode per season.
No, it's tight. It's a very tight.
And so it's a story that's succinct, that keeps moving you along. And I did like the way that it ended. Halfway through the season 2 finale, I was getting disappointed. I don't know if you recall it or not. You can't say too much from a spoiler standpoint.
No, and I'm trying to remember how the middle part is. I think I remember that, but yeah.
Basically, Eleanor isn't doing so hot on her task.
Yes.
And so but then it ended on a high note with some hope for next season.
Yes.
But which I'll have to wait again. My wife said last night after we finished it, she's like, "Okay, so when's season 3 start?" I go, "Well, season 2 just got released on Netflix, and season 3 starts, for live TV probably within the next 3, 4, 5 weeks." She's like, "Oh, well, we don't watch live TV, so I guess we'll have to wait a year." Yeah, that's kind of where we've gone in this.
Yeah. That's what happens when you have
kids. We have live TV, we just don't ever watch it.
What happens when you have kids.
God forbid we use DVR, but no, we just need to watch it on Netflix.
Do you have DVR?
Yeah, we have DVR.
And you don't use it? So you're paying for a thing.
Well, it was part of our Comcast package.
It doesn't matter. You're paying for a thing.
Well, yeah. Yes. All right, make me feel like an idiot.
I'm going to.
Yeah,
I'm going to.
No, I told you about our Comcast package, right?
I think Comcast is terrible, and...
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a monopoly and blah,
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 blah, blah. But we were just trying to get internet because we were going to be cutting the cable completely, right? And so, like, the high-speed internet alone was $80.
Yeah.
So then they came back to me and said, well, we'll give you the DVR, basic cable, and your internet for $65.
Huh.
So it was like, well, okay, we can either just have it, because I was all gung-ho about, okay, I'm cutting the cable, I'm getting away from Comcast, I hate you, Comcast, and then I'm like, okay, you gave me a better deal, all right, I'll take it. So technically we are paying for it, but
you're not to the degree that you normally would be. Okay, all right, fair point.
Okay, thank you.
Fair point.
All right, anything else?
Nah.
All right, sign us off.
All right, this podcast was for educational purposes only. Mostly, I hope you learned that Comcast is terrible. It is not designed to diagnose or treat.
Comcast or us?
I mean, we've already diagnosed Comcast.
Oh, yes.
And it sucks.
Yeah.
And we're treating it by trying to cut the cord as quickly as possible. Mm-hmm. When beginning any exercise program, it should be reviewed and discussed with your medical professional prior to beginning. Information on this podcast was not designed to replace medical treatment. Treat yourself.